Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Truelogic DX, and don't ask me how we managed to capture our current guest this afternoon, but the team really pulled through, and we got Mr. Chuckie Dreyfus to join us this afternoon. The conversation is going to revolve around a topic that even I'm in the discovery phase of, and it's always been a point of curiosity for me. When the opportunity to collaborate with him came up, we couldn't say no. We just had to jump at it. As always, I begin the conversation by letting you guys know that we appreciate the time that you spend with us this afternoon. And you get as much out of this conversation as you put in. So I strongly encourage you guys to throw your questions in the chat and we'll get them on the last, and we'll hit them all up on the last leg of the conversation. But without rolling on too long, because I've got a bunch of questions and you might too, I'd like to welcome Mr. Chuckie Dreyfus. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, Bernard. Good afternoon to everyone, to all your viewers, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a very refreshing change. Kasi I usually do a lot of streaming and but yeah, but yeah, I'm really happy to be here and to share hopefully things that might help other people who are watching also right now.
Right. You'll notice some of the conversations will be more curiosity for me, like what happens behind the scenes when you're an influencer, because I don't think a lot of people know what really happens behind the scenes. But the other is most of the time we try to translate it to value for brands, So for example, with social media, it has been on the rise. And it gave rise to influencers. I think the early influencers were more like Sina Abe Olandres, Sina Lori Baltazar, Sina Marketman, right? The bloggers were the early influencers of the age. And then with Facebook, with Instagram, and with the real social media channels, influencers started becoming a thing. Like 10 years ago, if you had told someone, "What's your job?" "I'm an influencer," they would have been like, "You're a what?" Right? So it's definitely different today. But I think the first thing I wanted to get out of the way is, let's disambiguate. What's the difference between a celebrity endorser and an influencer? Like, where is the line drawn between those two?
It's pretty. I mean, in my case, I feel na parang it's a pretty blurred line because in some capacity I also endorse certain products as a celebrity, but say kabilang banda, there are also times when on a lesser capacity perhaps I also participate and amplify and help out other brands on an influencer capacity. Ang weird nga sometimes when I say influencer, parang I feel kinda it feels parang naiilang ako whenever I mention it because you don't really have, parang weird when you say you're an influencer eh. No, I mean parang it's not a title I'd like to coin yung to tell people that I am na parang I mean it's really up to the people and brands to figure that out, but I will not go out there and say, hey, hi, I'm an influencer. Parang ang weird ng dating eh. Parang
right.
Parang nagbubuhat ka ng bangko or something like that. So,
but there are people that do that, right? There are people that wear that.
There are a lot of people who do that, but I'd rather not tell people na ganon ako. If they consider me to be like that, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate that. But you will not probably hear that from me na parang or see a card, a calling card from me na nakasulat na influencer, and hindi siguro gano'n, parang ang weird na feeling.
Okay. So having, let's say, wearing both shoes, no, from your side, how is it different? Like, how do you know you're getting into, how do you know you're doing a project in an endorser capacity, and how do you know you're doing a project in an influencer capacity? Like, where's the difference?
Probably in terms of capacity first. the scope. If they just ask you, say, to promote a product and mention it, and just casually mention something and testify if it actually really works, and then something like that.
Right. Which one is stricter? Which one is stricter? Like which one's got a tighter contract?
Well, if they want you as a celebrity and a brand ambassador, say a brand ambassador, mas strict yun because the deliverables are different. The exclusivity is different. The pay is different. Maraming to put it maraming kaakibat yun eh. You cannot do this, you cannot do that, you can only be seen doing this, promoting using this.
Using the competitor brand.
May ganon. You have to maintain a certain reputation. May ganon eh.
Right.
And maraming responsibilities if you're endorsing in a capacity of, say, a brand ambassador, as a celebrity. Iba yon, iba talaga yon. As opposed to, say, an influencer na itatap ka lang to, say, brand mention, or just to show people na on social media maybe na you're using a particular product or eating a certain kind of food na in passing lang, or probably just a one-time thing. That's different.
Right. So when you brand ambassador for a company, so I guess that means you sort of represent what the product is. But if I'm hearing it correctly, influencer is more like amplifying a message.
Yes.
Like
yes.
So it's more message amplification.
Normally naman kasi when a brand taps you as an influencer, you're usually you're not the only person naman being tapped for that. Right. Maraming influencer because
okay.
Maraming niche market, iba-ibang niche market ng kanya-kanyang influence, 'di ba? Like
right.
Let's get 5 influencers na iba-ibang ang audience or something like that, or kahit konti lang yung following pero kumuha tayo ng marami dahil authentic naman si influencer eh. So nakikinig ang audience niyan.
Right. So normally yung mga exclusivity, yung mga lockout, like preferential behaviors, those are more celebrity endorsements than those are influencer expectations.
But there are certain influencers also get locked out. Meron din talaga. I mean, if they really want them long term or for a certain duration, ginagawa din naman yon. It happens also with influencers, but more often than not, it happens when a brand wants to lock out a certain personality. Yun. Mas madalas nangyayari yun.
Okay, so let's talk on the brand side naman, no? Let's say when you get approached for either function, like how do you work with brands? Like normally, if a brand wants to reach out to let's begin with motivation. Why would a brand reach out to you? Let's say, like why do they feel they need an endorser? Why do they feel they need an influencer? And then why your specific profile?
Well, for one, I'm sure pag lumapit naman si brand, I'd like to believe naman that they approached me because of my capacity, my reputation, how personally connected I am with my audience.
Right.
Authenticity. I'd like to believe, no? I mean, because naniniwala naman ako before a brand approaches, they
probably done their homework,
di ba?
Yeah, they probably done their homework.
So I feel flattered and for the opportunity and considering me, malaking bagay din yon. And of course, ako naman sa akin, after I hear them out and what they have to offer and what they want from me, hindi naman ako mahirap na kausap when it comes to these things, especially when I really use the product and I really like it. Hindi naman talaga ako mahirap kausap, but I never really endorse things that I don't believe in.
Because the conversations begin how? Like, are you directly approached? Do they go via a manager? Do they go via an agency?
Well, they approach.
How do the conversations start?
Personally, they approach. Iba yan. With regards to brands approaching me to promote something or to mention something, they don't really pass through a manager naman talaga sa akin because they really go directly. But sometimes dumadaan yan sa friend of a friend. Maybe they don't know how to reach me, di ba? Oy, I have a friend who owns this or manages this and they want to tap you. Baka po pwede kang, you would like to consider. If you're okay, I'll hook you guys up. Di ba may ganon eh?
Right.
Sometimes an agency finds a way to, or perhaps nandun na yung contact number ko sa agency na yon, and I'm easily, they can easily reach me. So they approach me and they say, hey, we have a brand. Our agency has a brand that we think is a perfect fit for you. And maybe you would like to consider the brand. Itong hinihingi, ganyan-ganyan. If you're okay, we'd like to sit down with you. May ganon, di ba? And then talk about it.
Right.
Sometimes brand goes directly. It also happens every now and then. Usually brands that would like to go at it by themselves na may sariling internal marketing department, who would rather not go through an agency. I don't know, for whatever reason, purpose they have, no? So, maraming paraan. There are many ways for them to reach me, and it happens naman, a variety of ways.
What about selection on your end? How do you pick the brands that you work with? Like, yes, no, maybe absolutely not. Like, how do you make a selection for, no, kaano ko to, kapareho ng, like, my personality is a match for this brand. Oh, no, my audience would love that. Like, how do you say who's a yes and who's a no?
Well, so far, wala pa naman talaga akong yung talagang tinatanggihan na medyo off. I mean, probably if it's about smoking or something about gambling or something about hard liquor, maybe, because people know I don't drink eh. So there's really no, even if I say, wow, ang sarap, at the end of the day, I will sit back and relax and drink X brand.
Right. But your real followers will know that's not
alam nilang BDS ko eh. Kasi, binayaran yan. Siguro laki ng binayad niya kasi di naman umiinom. Ganun eh. Parang, I don't want to fool my audience because at the end of the day, when I endorse something else next time na ibang product, baka hindi na ako paniwalaan, di ba?
Right.
I mean, there's a certain credibility. You have to take care of your image also kasi. And I mean, if it's a certain, like for example, if somebody approaches me and asks me, wag nang sugal, wag nang yosi. If somebody approaches me and says, can we ask you to endorse a dishwashing liquid or I mean, I'd love to, but parang, I mean, would people really believe na ako yung naglalampaso sa kusina ng ano, di ba parang, or something like that, I mean, just keep it real lang, di ba? Parang yung totoo lang.
So what about creating, like, let's say, short, midterm, and long-term relationships with some brands? You have some pretty long-term relationships there, right?
Yes.
Like Ford Air Asia, Globe, I think is a long-standing relationship that you guys. What makes the relationship work long-term?
Sorry?
What makes the relationship work long term?
I think it's the personal connections and the friendships that you make along the way. When I mean, of course, you start out as business partners, diba? But eventually, you get to meet everyone there, and you form a bond, and you hit it off well, and eventually, next thing you know, it's 5 years, 10 years already, magkasama pa rin kayo and you're still working together. It's so much. I think the secret there talaga is building relationships that go beyond the working capacity talaga, and it really matters eh. I mean, at the end of the day, if you strike a relationship and a connection with them, nagkakaroon ng, it's really different eh. Even the manner of work eh. I mean, hindi na pera-pera eh. Ang ganda nung, and that's how I really feel with a lot of brands that I work with na sobrang tagal na talaga. Talagang when they approach me, parang no questions asked, even contract or no contract. If you need my help, I'm here for you. Okay. And I think I'd like to believe na for them malaking bagay din naman yon, yung ganung klaseng relationship.
I'll take the questions too. Let's go behind the scenes muna, no? So for me, the biggest curiosity is always, I tend to think social media is an extension of people's personal spaces.
Yeah.
But when there are all eyes on what is supposed to be your personal space, like when all eyes are on your personal space, where do you air out your
Yeah.
personal opinion, like especially if you have to be careful, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very constraining, like if I had to be careful about everything I
It's
had to
very
put out
hard.
there. Yeah, like then what's like, how do I enjoy being on social media? I probably will not, because it's one more place I have to worry about. So for you, how do you create a safe personal space where you can air out your opinion, and then how do you nurture a public profile that everybody can look at? And then, is there a difference? Is it the same profile?
Um, w- I have my Facebook page, which wherein that is mainly the platform where I connect with my supporters and my followers.
Mm,
Talaga. And I'm very personal also with them there. I speak in I speak in Taglish. But I'm not as off the cuff as I am in my personal account.
mm,
My personal account is also public, mind you. But what I post there is my personal opinion. If you're gonna bash me there, I will ban you, and I will block you, and I will kick you out, because
mm.
you. Kumbaga ang akin kasi I'm very opinionated, but
Right.
I really bite my tongue a lot, and I really try to
Don't
temper
we
my.
all?
So hard eh. Especially with the temperature now, di ba? The temperature, it's so hard. But di ba, parang I feel na parang as a responsible citizen and a person who has feelings, I also want to vent out and talk about my opinion, because
Right.
I believe this is my platform. I want to be heard. But at the same time, people kasi, you have to understand that people also listen to you.
Mhm,
Your opinion carries a lot more weight, and you have to be very, very careful. So it's really hard to balance, but
mhm.
I try my best to. Sometimes I fail to. Sometimes I fail to control my words. Sometimes, but only there. So personal
Right.
account ko lang.
So the account is where your private sentiments are, and
Yes.
then the page is
But
where
the thing
your
is,
public messaging
here's what's
is.
funny is it's private in the sense that I air out my sentiments there, but it's also a public platform, because I never hindi ko like sa Facebook ang status ko hindi naman friends only eh. Naka-public din ako doon eh.
Okay.
So normally when I vent out, it's either there and on Twitter.
Mhm.
I mean, naman Twitter talaga is the platform where you can really just, say
Right.
random things and um but I try my best not to wag makasagasa which is very important. Wag makasagasa, wag ka makapanakit ng tao by your
Right.
words. Stay as positive as possible, but be as truthful also, and make people also realize that there's certain ideals and beliefs that you stand up to, and things that you talk about, and it's not
Right.
just about endorsing, promoting, and yung mga, di ba, very superficial eh. People need to
Right.
know also that you're authentic as a person, na di ba may mga pinaniniwalaan ka, because it adds also to your character and your integrity eh.
Yeah.
So
So
you also have to show that eh.
so through the looking glass naman, no. So let's say I think a Gen Xer has a good idea of what influencers are. And to a degree, the amount of work that goes behind it. Pero let's say may baby boomer ka na urban tito or urban tita, right? And then let's say, so what do you do? Oh, I brand ambassador, I'm a celebrity endorser.
Yeah.
And then may urban tito ka na, ay, hindi naman tunay na trabaho yan. Right? Like,
Maraming ganyan, oo.
right. So how much work actually does go into having to take care of your account, of taking care of your community? Is it a lot of work? What kind? So a day in the life of Chuckie Dreyfus, like what's your day like when you create content? How much content has to get produced in order to
Um,
keep the community active, in order to keep people engaged?
in terms of content, my followers kasi now, especially on Facebook, I have really connected with them personally, in the sense that I don't really have to talk about things that I promote anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I there I'd like to believe that they are invested already, because anything that I do, they really are affected in the way na parang and mind you, many of them are OFW. So I'd like to spread the thing that I always get from them is, thank you for making my day happy, even when I'm away from the Philippines, longing for my family, napapatawa mo kami, nabibigyan mo kami saya. So there's a certain sense of responsibility also there, especially when they watch my vlogs, na parang, I'm watching your vlog right now on my way to work, riding the train and stuff like that. So parang, okay, I'd like to maintain that. I'd like to help them, give them happiness. But in terms of content, of course, I'd like to put out as many content as possible. But the pressure to put out content naman is not so much. I actually put up a separate Facebook group of my most avid followers from my Facebook page. Nilagay ko sila doon. And we actually call it the Chuckie Dreyfus community group. It's a very tight-knit, 2,000 members strong community of followers. And I engage with them about anything, nonsense and stuff. And we actually see pre-pandemic, nagkikita kami. We've already gone out during anniversaries. They surprised me during my birthday. We do outreach programs now together. We go to orphanages. People from our OFW members who are close to us, they actually send products and money also to help sa outreach program. We've really medyo lumalim na yung samahan ko sa mga followers ko talaga. And I'm really blessed to have met these people. And the new followers tend to understand what kind of community we have now here when they join. So,
but that's an eye opener, like when you say na the primary audience wound up being majority OFWs and balikbayans, right?
Yes.
I'm not sure that would have been your primary suspect. Like, I mean, did you think that was your primary suspect audience?
No, not at all. But at the same time, when I really thought about it, sabi ko, okay, ito sina tito and tita na dating mga batang sumusunod sa akin when I was a child actor, became a teeny bobber and who's now working abroad. So, medyo it makes sense also. But I never realized that ganun sila kadami. And but it's nice because at the same time kasi brands also look for that people who they'd like to tap na the breadwinners of the family, di ba?
That's true, right?
Diba?
Right.
Yung bagay yun So
I think
power
maybe the relationship even your relationship with Ford, I think might have been they understood na, oh wait, you know what, balikbayans OFW.
Yes.
They can afford this vehicle and they want this for their family.
Yes. Ganun yun I mean, like, I remember one of my followers actually messaged me na when I was, and I was actually endorsing Ford because I love the product talaga. I mean, I've endorsed other vehicles. And I really swore by it and the features and everything. And I remember somebody approached me and nag-message sa akin na sabi niya, talaga gusto mo ba, ang tanong niya, gusto mo ba talaga yung sasakyan na yan? Because kung maganda, sasabihan ko yung, I don't know kung kapatid o pamangkin, sasabihin ko na yan ang bilhin doon sa probinsya para yan ang gamitin. May ganun So, yun talaga yun yung effect, and it's really nice when people approach you and they ask you and then they'll say, ay, sige yan ang ipapabili ko sa pamilya ko dyan sa Pilipinas. Ang sarap because parang salamat sa tiwala, di ba? Yun yung thank you for the trust, thank you for believing in the things that I endorse. So so I don't want to lose
they
that.
Take your word for it, and your reputation that it is good,
yes,
right?
Yes, correct. So I mean, kaya hindi naman po pwedeng puri ka ng puri lang sa isang produkto because people will think na, ay, kasi naman, lahat naman yan lumapit sa kanya, pupurihin niya pag hindi niya gusto. Hindi naman sasabihin. So, I mean, I try to stay as truthful as possible. I don't want to say anything negative about products, but I will never lie to my audience by saying, ay, masarap
ito. When you like something,
or ang galing nito, pero hindi naman totoong magaling. I would rather just keep quiet about it and not say anything bad about it so that hindi mo kang nagsisinungaling ako. Diba? I
But
mean,
what about the brands that you work with? How much control do they have over the content you produce? Like meron bang ganon? Like are there requirements na kailangan X posted? Okay, here's your ad budget. Please boost this X times. Like is that part of the deal? Like
well,
when you get into an agreement with them?
there's some brands who really actually offer a certain budget for boosting, but
Mm-hmm.
boosting is boosting. It's just really tapping an extension of your audience
Right,
time. But that's
right.
fine. Um, in terms of control, most of the time they just give me pointers on what to say, but they would rather have me say it in the kind of my manner of speaking because it will not sound authentic if it doesn't come from me.
Right, right.
So, which is also because when they tell me, they give me a certain copy and they say ito yung sasabihin, I always tell them sometimes, like for example, if I'm tapping Facebook page or if I'm tapping something else, can I change, kunyari Instagram, can I can I post on IG more English than and then medyo Taglish on Facebook page because iba ang audience ng dalawang ito eh.
Right, right. And that's how my
And
audiences are used to
same
hearing me.
same message but different manner of speaking lang because
Mhm.
I have to reach out to them in the way that they know that I reach out to them talaga eh. So
Right.
I tell my brands about this also because I'm sure for them tinutulungan ko rin naman sila na magmukhang authentic also coming from me eh, because I'm also looking out for their for the outcome, the bottom line also. So ang akin parang I'd like to perform as to the best of my abilities and this is how I can reach my audience better. So I tell them
Mhm.
that.
So it's never happened where a brand told you na, oh, sige, ito, 3-month contract. Here's your content playbook. Like, there's your content calendar. That's what you publish. Like, has that ever happened?
Um, non, sorry, to be more specific, what do you mean?
Like, meaning the brand prescribed what you post na, oh, Chucky, also here's the deal.
Yeah,
Here's your content playbook. Ayan,
yeah,
yung
yeah,
MWF ang schedule mo. The posting happens on these
yeah.
hours. Ito
Okay lang
yung
yun.
content na papublish
That's
mo.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Because, but I will also suggest also and tell them na, alam mo, medyo malakas tayo sa ganitong araw. So, baka
Right.
pwedeng i-spread out ng konti,
Okay.
mas gisingan ang audience ko ng ganitong oras. Di ba? May ganon eh. So, it's not really hindi naman ironclad na sabihin nila kailangan ito mga araw ang
Right.
because I know my audience better than they do eh.
Mhm.
Di
So
ba?
it's very collaborative still, like even deciding on what content gets posted when.
Yes.
So a lot of it is
Yeah.
always negotiated. A lot of it is always collaborative.
Because even in photos and all, of course I talk to them about it. How do you like this shot? Pwede bang, and then I'll tell them pwede bang medyo hindi medyo subtle lang ang product placement para hindi tayo mukhang hard sell, hindi masyadong
Right.
hindi nagmumura ang product, 'di ba? And ano naman, most of the brands that I talk to are very open naman to my input and how
Right.
I'd like to get the message across because nagtiwala kayong lumapit sa akin eh, 'di ba? You approach me because of my how I approach and talk to my audience. So they give value naman to what to my input also on
Right.
how to reach out. So
Right.
yon.
Okay. The other thing is, keeping the conversation alive with your audience. Like when you create content, I'll start with sharpening the saw, no? I after our first conversation, I actually looked up. You tend to be pretty prolific, no? Like there's a lot of vids on YouTube. None of them are old. So nothing goes stale. Your Facebook page is super active. What's the cadence? Like, I mean, in order to be that prolific, like what new skills did you have to learn? Like, did you have to get a professional camera to take videos? Do you just do it on a phone? Do you edit it with any professional software? Did you have to learn any of this on the fly?
Okay. Well, one, I've been on the internet since the inception of the internet here. I mean, since the
Right.
internet has so I'm pretty tech. I'd like to believe I'm pretty techy naman. It
Mhm.
wasn't the learning curve wasn't really steep, no.
Right.
Uh, but in terms of improving my content, Of course, I start out with the things that I used to have, the basic stuff. Okay, may camera ako may camera ako sa phone, gagamitin ko to. Try it out, dabble a little, and then when I improved on it, and then I saw na parang, okay, I can work on this a little bit more, my potential, people are watching, I'd like to improve my content. That's when I started upgrading, and then I self-taught ako sa video editing. Although it's not really super hard because I love, playing around with new apps. So medyo I learned it sa laptop, I learned it sa phone. And I try to be very consistent with regards to how often I post on social media. So every now and then, ma-realize ko, wala akong post kahapon or wala akong post the past 2 days. I have to put something out. I mean, it doesn't have to be a product.
Right.
Or, just a photo of myself and doing something, or just talking to my audience. Or perhaps
how long did you have to trial and error your messaging? Like how long did you have to trial how long did you have to trial and error the messaging? Like, take for example, I think originally you were more comfortable in English than you are with Filipino, and then migrating to Taglish is sort of like an adaptation for you, right? So how long did it take to figure that out?
Like for example, nung nag-YouTube ako, most of my vlogs were in English. The first few videos, yung alam mo, thinking na I would rather tap the international audience, which is perfectly fine kung yun ang gusto ko. But sabi ko, okay lang. Parang hindi masyadong pumapal. Parang, it's okay. And then, a couple of years back, I said, subukan kaya nating mag-Taglish. Subukan lang, may more natural, more, di ba? I mean, so I tried doing that. Even in the captions, ginawa akong Taglish. And more off the cuff and more spontaneous. That's when the comments and the engagement started happening. So, okay. The first time I did that, nag-iba talaga siya ko. Okay, now I know my market. It took me a couple of years to realize that, because medyo nawalan ako ng gana sa YouTube nung medyo mahina to. And then medyo nagpahinga.
And then they tightened up the algorithm on YouTube, right? Like a couple of years ago on how you monetize it.
Correct. Oo. And then eventually I sabi ko, sige, let's try YouTube again, and then let's do a different style of speaking and and that's when it started getting hits. And then I found out na OFWs were watching it, and people were starting to relate more and engage more and feel invested in, so yun, sabi ko, okay, ito na yun, di na ako aalis dito, this is my market. Hindi na ako mag-aambisyon na maghanap pa ng mga international audience, di ba? Because this is my voice. So
does your audience tend to grow organically? Like, is it continuing to grow?
Yes.
But is that the goal? Like, is the goal to hit a certain population, or is the goal just to keep a tightly knit community? What tends to be the goal for you?
It's nice to, of course, the goal talaga naman also is to increase your reach.
Right.
But it's not, I'm not desperate na parang, oh my God, parang hindi pumapalo ang tagal naman pumalo ng following count ko. Hindi naman ganon. It's not really like that. If it comes, it comes.
Right.
I'm happy with the followers that I have. Of course, I'd like to have more, but I am not really yung talagang kapit sa patalim na kailangan.
Right.
Hindi naman, not really like that.
What about April 2018? There was a big Facebook algorithm change. Yes. And then earlier this year, there was also another big Facebook algorithm change as they tried to prepare for iOS 14.5. No?
Yes.
Like, did you see any impact on your reach, on the rate of engagement on your pages, or no, it didn't really affect you at all?
The first algorithm change was the one that affected me. Yes. The one where they limited the reach of your page.
Right.
But I prepared for that. That's one of the reasons why I put up my Facebook group, because the group is not affected by the algorithm change, only the Facebook page.
Right.
So I knew it was coming because they were announcing it already. So what I did was, that is why I migrated my followers to the group. so that if they don't see it on my page, I can easily promote it sa group ko.
Right.
And they can actually go back there to my page.
The people I think that may not be aware, before April 2018, if you had a reach of X, no, it didn't matter whether your post was boosted or whether it was organic. It would appear on somebody's wall at the top.
Yes.
Based on the timeline, right? And then after April, ang nangyari is kapag hindi siya promoted, hindi na siya nag-appear sa top ng wall ng mga tao. It appears at the bottom, right?
Ramdam na ramdam ko yun because I remember kunya when I posted something before, yung ilang libo yung likes. And then the drop was so drastic talaga. As in, what the hell happened here? Ano yung...
Right.
What am I doing? No, but sabi ko, but I kind of expected it. I really anticipated it. That's why before they implemented it, a couple of weeks before, when I put up the Facebook group, I announced on my page na, hey, I have a group. Join me here. It's my community. Sama-sama tayo dito. And they eventually became my part of, it's like an extension of my family now. And I was very, very thankful to have had that foresight because now I can tap them there rather than just always tap them on my page. Right, so if I feel na medyo mahina yung palo ng page, ng isang post ko sa page, I can always re-amplify it on my group.
Right.
So, and so that people who have not seen it can actually go to my page and look at it.
I'll go back to keeping the content clean. Because we covered it a bit na kanina, no? Like don't make it offensive, and then the content inside your account is a bit more personal than the content on your pages. But so let's say there's an aspiring influencer that's listening to this conversation, or even to the recording in the future. What are the basics? Like, what are the tips in terms of keeping your content clean inside both your page and your account? Like, are there soft rules to follow? Are there hard rules to follow?
Well, for one, huwag ka magmumura. Don't curse.
Right.
Although
okay, so no cussing. I am never going on social media.
Especially on the page. But may lapse ako dyan every now and then sa personal account ko. Especially when I talk about, things like politics and medyo nagiging emotional ako dyan. Sometimes alam mo yung mga will post now, might delete later. I might do that also sometimes. But doon mas lenient ako doon sa isa kong sa isang account. But on my Facebook page, I'm try to keep it as natural, no cussing whatsoever. No politics on my page. No talking about. I can talk about religion, but not to degrade another person's religion.
Right, just to express your own.
Yes, my own belief. And to keep it as light and as spontaneous, and to try to make sure that my personality comes out and comes across to people, and basically that there's really those are the main tenets talaga for me. I can go as wild as, which I normally do talaga, sometimes sometimes sabi nga ni Mrs. I do a lot of postings about me pranking my wife and yung or video ko siya ng tulog, tas gugulatin ko siya na pero I do that because people know I'm like that
Okay. Does she know she signed up for that?
No, pero although she said, sabi niya sa akin, dapat kumakat na ako sa TF mo gagana sa akin.
True.
Pero I make sure naman that she's okay with it kasi I don't want naman na parang sabi niya invasion of privacy naman also to a certain extent. Baka naman I'm too much di ba, giving out too much information on how she looks when she's sleeping or stuff like that, di ba, yung mga ganon. But I medyo risque na hindi. Alam mo yung ganon?
Yeah, I guess because the playfulness is expected out of you, your audience expects the playfulness to be an element of your personality.
Yeah. I'm very naughty also. I mean, I don't claim to be yung super duper wholesome and yung 'di ba na very parang batang ano, because I'm very naughty also, especially when it comes to my wife. Talaga niloloko talaga. I mean, parang mga double meaning, and I tend to flirt with her on cam, but that's me lang talaga, and I think people really like that so um I try to be as authentic but also as positive as possible, because I'm sure also when brands approach me, I want them to believe naman talaga na when I'm authentic and I do these things, na when I say something to my audience and tell them that I believe in a certain product, na people will really believe me also.
But can we deconstruct that a bit, no? Like I think that's a buzzword that goes around on social media. Like it's effective when it's authentic. Pero what does that mean? Like when you create content, what does it mean to be authentic?
To be your it's a it's hard to I mean, basically to be authentic is to be yourself. I know it sounds too cliche, but to speak your mind, but to also be respectful, but to make sure to speak your mind so that people know what really goes on inside your head, and to know your character. If people are not invested in you because they don't know you as a person, there really isn't anything to sell. You have to sell yourself as a person, and for people to believe you before they can actually believe what you are endorsing. So
like, take for example, I think you hit some of it earlier, no? Not take for example, drinking, not authentic to you because people already know you don't, right? Gambling, not authentic to you because you're not into it either. Pero aside from verticals being a no-no, what else comprises not authentic content?
um being too cliche, being too yung ganon,
Right.
showing yung parang ang linis-linis ng lahat ng pinopost mo, yung parang everything that is just beautiful is there. Even very curated captions. That's not authentic.
Right, that's true. Like kapag rehash ka lang ng rehash ng content, like if you just curate other people's content and then you post it, but it's not really your own. Okay. Have you discovered, like, aside from Taglish being a great medium for communicating with your audiences, which tend to be balikbayans, Filipinos that are overseas, have you also discovered, like, is there an angle, a topic that they tend to gravitate more towards? Like, meron ba silang type ng content na mas type than others?
They gravitate towards content I post about, say, family, stuff like that, family, work, of course, show business. I mean, anything that I post about me during my shootings, my BTS stuff like that. They really because
so it's like Pinoy sentimental values.
Yeah,
like the angle with them is Pinoy. Anything that is Pinoy, like, I guess, authentically Pinoy and sentimental values
family.
about
But
positivity.
apart from that, also because the industry that I come from is show business, and when they enter my page naman, normally they follow me because they'll say, si Chuckie to, ito yung si child actor na
grew up with him, right? Grew up with him.
And that is the first attraction. So anything that I post about work, about show business, and they really gravitate towards that talaga also because that's their interest. But apart from that, after learning, after grabbing their interest, and then they're following me already, they tend to know me as a person and the things that I endorse, the things that I like, and somehow naniniwala din naman sila sa akin, and we form a certain bond na to the point na parang if I talk about a product or something, it's not so much an endorsement anymore, but something that I swear by, that people might strongly consider. I make it, I'd like to also put in sinasabi ko nga kasi, everyone who comments on my Facebook page, no matter how dami yung comments doon sa post ko, I make it a point talaga to reply to each and
I
every
was gonna
single comment.
ask. Yeah, I was gonna ask that, like, because I think aside from, I think people forget that a reply to a comment, a response, is still content,
Yes,
right?
and it
And
keeps
so even though
and
you're
keeps them
posting like
there.
X, yeah, but you know, so where do you find time to sleep?
No, yun na nga,
How do you
because
get off Facebook?
here's the thing. Sometimes, sinasabi ko ngayon minsan sa
Trabaho na
mga,
yun eh.
sometimes I tell them, pasensya na, there are times when hindi ako makakomment ng kaagad-agad. When you leave a comment, hindi ako makareply kaagad. But
Right.
rest assured, I read each and every one of them and I will comment eventually. Minsan busy lang, yan, minsan busy lang, but I will comment. And I will comment personally. I have no team that answers my comments for me. It's just me. And I'd like them kasi to also feel na, apart from me just posting things, and kasi the perception of people is, artista siya or ganito siya, mahirap, hindi ma-reach. Ko-comment ako pero ko-comment
Or may
ako,
PA, or may
di ba?
PA.
Or
Right.
ko-comment ako pero ang kanila minsan kasi ko-comment ako pero feeling ko naman, hindi ko naman in-expect na re-replyan ako eh. May ganon eh. So when I reply, they'll say, uy, hindi ko talaga in-expect na magre-reply kayo. Maraming salamat. But I'm really like that kasi because I'd like them to believe na there's really a person behind these posts who really read the comments and pay attention to their comments and really reply back. Because it's also one very effective way to keep your audience eh.
Right.
Hindi
Kasi it validates their voice eh.
Yeah, hindi lang yun napadaan, nag-comment, umalis na, hindi na babalik yun eh. Pero but when you comment and they see, uy, nag-comment si Chuck, totoong tao siya, I will come back and magkakaroon kami ng bond kahit papano.
Right.
And they'll
Because it
feel
becomes a
more,
conversation.
and it feels
Right.
more personal now. So
Right.
so hindi na siya parang influencer or personality and fan, and hindi na ganon. There's a certain friendship na that forms there eh, which is very valuable also.
Yeah. We're nearing the top of the hour, so I'll hit you with a couple of lightning round questions, no,
Go.
like just quick questions and then
Go.
quick answers, and then I'll jump into everybody else's question. Um, influencer marketing, in terms of overall effectiveness for a brand. Like if you were to rate it as part of a strategy, where would you rate it on a 1 to 10? Na para sa ang influencer marketing, or it's not for you. How does a brand figure it out?
Teka, medyo nagulan ako sa question mo. Can you repeat that again? Just
So if I was a brand, how would I know
sorry.
that I need an influencer on my side?
Okay.
And how do I know when I don't need one?
Okay. Well, it's not wrong to always need an influencer, especially if that influencer taps a certain audience that you cater to.
Okay.
So, kasi, di ba, if business is good, you promote. If business is not good, you promote. Ganun naman yun
right,
eh.
that's true.
Di ba? So, if you have the budget and if you feel that you'd like to get your product out there more, then of course, influencers help.
Right.
If you feel like business is doing good, but you just want to stay out there and relevant, and or if you have a new product that you'd like to jumpstart and start people talking about it, an influencer would be good. It really depends on a brand's objective and how and of course, the budget, syempre, no? If you have
and also whether that audience aligns, no? Actually, that's a question that has gotten asked by the audience.
Yeah.
So let's say there's a 20-something, 30-something-year-old that's listening to our conversation, but this is what they want to do, right? So is it a real job? Yes or no? Like doing influencer marketing, is it a real job? Yes or no?
To someone who's very, it is a job in the sense that sometimes kasi business is very, very good and there are a lot of partnerships that go on during a certain but it's like pagiging artista. There are lean months, di ba? And there are times when, di ba, may matumal.
There are months of abundance, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, because it's not like, say, a desk job wherein, at the end of the month may sweldo ka. Hindi siya ganon.
Right.
Diba? So you learn to you learn to save up also because hindi naman laging ganito. Or there are times na talaga medyo mahina, may times na sobrang dami. Yes, it is a job. I mean, especially if you're putting in so much time and you're taking care of your image and people have started approaching you. Oh, trabaho naman talaga siya. It's more of a job than now and a recognized line of work now as opposed to back in the day.
Right. I agree. I agree. What is your general sense of, let's say, the level of integrity or at least the level of honesty in the Filipino influencing community? Like, if you were to rate it 1 to 10, the general trust level of the public in influencer marketing, you would say sits where? Like 10 being high trust, 0 being super skeptical.
Probably on a 7. Medyo conservative.
Not bad.
7 or 8.
Yeah, but that's not bad.
No, not bad at all. It really depends na lang on who's promoting it. So kailangan very the discernment on who to tap as an influencer. Kasi 'di ba, like if I were a brand and I'm an upscale brand and I tap say an influencer whose market is very masa or something like that, it hindi connect yun eh. So but in terms of an audience believing influencers, especially influencers, so we're not talking about celebrities and actors mataas ang paniniwala ng audience because they may not have a lot of following, but those followers really believe that particular influencer, and they really follow every product that that person promotes. So yes, people tend to do that more because people tend to listen to their influencers now rather than say read a magazine or watch a commercial on TV. Mas authentic because experiential eh.
Have you seen China? Like they moved from social marketing to social selling. Like it's crazy. They have billion-dollar days, like in terms of selling. Where do you think the future of influencer marketing is in the Philippines? Do you think we're headed in the same direction, or tingin mo yung market natin is probably not like that?
I think we're headed towards that also because because we're not so the way the Chinese consumes their content, ganun din tayo. Actually, mas matindi pa nga tayo eh.
We're like
the social media
either the best or the
world,
worst.
Man.
Average Filipino, 10 hours, 56 minutes online. That's crazy.
People who don't have cell phones are in internet cafes and then we're the social media capital of the world. What do you expect? Talagang doon tayo papunta talaga. And especially now that the generation is changing, the oldies, the titos and the titas who just usually read newspapers and watch the news on TV, nawawala na yan eh. The generation is changing. The incoming older generation, these are the digital natives already.
Right. They don't go online. They live online actually.
Yeah. So doon talaga papunta lahat eh. There's more because it's experiential eh.
Experimenting about on other channels, TikTok, Laika. What's your opinion on experimentation with other social channels?
If there's an emerging platform, I always grab the opportunity right away because you'll never know if it's the next big thing.
So that's true.
You'd like to, just put your mark there. You try to cultivate your audience there, and if it grows well and good, at least nandun ka na. Like when Laika came out, I went to Laika. I'm not super active on TikTok, but I'd like to be more active there also because there's a very big market that you can tap there. But if you're really looking to be active on social media, you have to keep your ears on the ground and really find out what emerging platforms are there. Eh?
So there are questions from the floor that I'll start to hit one at a time, no? So the first question is there an ethical time period? So let's say there's endorser X, no, and then si influencer X, and si influencer X was promoting product X a couple of months ago, and then this month na pinopromote niya product Y, and competing sila. is that an acceptable practice? B, is there an ethical time period before you ought to do that? Like let's say ikaw, kunwari, let's say Nike, and then 3 months later, si Adidas comes knocking. Like when is it okay to do both?
Um, kung magkaiba naman kasi ang modelo, hindi naman siguro masama. You can easily justify that eh. If let's say, wow, this pair of Nike shoes is really great for basketball. I love it. Ganyan-ganyan. Then
Right.
3 months down the road, you say, oh, ang ganda pala nitong running shoes ng Reebok or whatever, or Adidas.
Right.
I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. Kahit pa next week lang yan because you're just talking about unless may lockout ka, syempre, you know,
Right.
or a certain product na kung talagang direct competitor talaga siya basketball shoes and basketball shoes, medyo mag-iisip ako ng konti na parang I'll probably give it a little more time.
Mhm.
But there's really no pressure in terms of wag muna ako mag-post. Hindi naman kasi parang hindi
Right.
ko na credibility because I can have more than 3 pairs of shoes na pare-pareho. Like right
So
now I
what's
have.
more important is you actually really believe in the product,
Yes. Oo.
even if they are competing.
Yeah, but normally kasi when a product approaches you, especially let's say on a celebrity capacity, they'll ask you
May
naman,
lockout.
may lockout
Right.
clause naman talaga yan. And then
Right.
after that, they'll say after the contract expires, huwag ka muna tumanggap ng endorsement from a different brand for X amount of months, di ba? May ganun eh,
Right.
di ba?
Right.
Parang no
So it's
compete.
in the contract. It can vary based off of the contract.
Yeah, oo. Yun. But which is fine,
Okay.
which is fine.
Question was, so this was a little sensitive, pero how do you decide on how you negotiate rates with the brand that you work with?
Okay. It really depends also on the, kasi whenever a brand approaches me, tinitingnan ko rin naman kahit papaano, what is the capacity of the brand? Kung startup siya, of course, I'd like to help a startup grow. And you know, hindi naman ako taga, hindi naman ako ganon.
Yeah.
There's certain brands that actually do X deals lang, which is fine. Kung startup and you know, kailangan ng support, I'm always willing to support a startup brand or a brand who's just you know, struggling to make ends meet, and especially during the pandemic. I've been helping brands here and there, and kahit minsan X deal or you know, in any capacity, because we know that everyone needs help eh. So tinutulungan ko din naman sila. But you know, if a brand is big and you know their capacity, the
Right.
capacity to malalim ang bulsa and stuff like that, and they're asking to tap you and X amount of especially when they state an X amount of deliverables, ibang usapan yun.
Right.
Kasi
Are X deals still a thing? Are X deals still a thing?
Yes, X deals are a very real thing even up to now.
Okay.
Depende na lang yan sa, like, syempre, when a big brand approaches you and says, we want X number of 2 posts here, 2 posts there, ganyan, we'll give you these products. Teka muna, sandali. You're asking something from me na parang nagde-demand ka na eh. So,
Right.
yun. Oo, but you know, there's certain brands kasi na we'd like to send you this product. Would you be willing to support us? Any post is fine. An IG story would be fine. Okay lang yun. Walang problema sa akin yun. Wala na tayong usapan.
Nike, if you're listening, I run 5 kilometers a night. Like I go through your shoes like pancakes. I'll take a next deal.
Diba?
So you want me to record the run every night? Sure.
Okay lang, yeah.
Okay. I have another interesting question here. Actually, 2 more interesting questions. The first one is they're noticing that a lot of brands that use influencer marketing as a go-to strategy tend to be B2C. So paano daw kapag B2B? Is there a situation where B2B companies can benefit from influencer marketing?
Sorry but when you say B2B, ang ibig sabihin is B2C,
like business to business, like us, no? Yeah, business to consumer.
Yeah.
So like the Unilevers, the P&Gs,
yes,
these guys.
Yes, correct.
But take for example, for us, Truelogic is B2B kasi
Yeah.
we don't work with individuals, we work with companies.
Yes, tama.
Like, is there a situation where where it is appropriate to a company like us, like we're a service provider, or is there a situation where it's relevant to a consulting company, to an executive search firm,
It really
or
depends.
is it more for B2C?
It's really, for me, personally, it's really more B2C because
Mm.
when you tap an influencer, it's more so much to, when you tap an
Individual
influencer,
audiences, right?
you're
It's
tapping that
individual
audience, eh,
audiences,
yung sa
right?
taong yun eh. So it makes more sense to tap an influencer or a personality when
Right.
it's B2C talaga. Yun yung end goal mo eh, yung consumer eh.
So there's a few more questions. I'll try to get through them. The next one is, so if you were giving a young Chuckie Dreyfus starting out at social media influencing, what advice would you give him? Like if you could go back in time and give yourself advice, let's say 5 years ago, what advice would you give him?
Probably, that's hard probably to be, oh my God, that's a very hard thing. Ano, 5 years, siguro probably, oh, probably put out more vlogs on YouTube.
Hmm.
Because during that time, hindi pa emerging masyado ang mga
No, that's
Filipino
true.
vloggers.
Yeah, that's true.
If I started earlier, I probably would have gained more. And
Hmm.
hindi pa ganun kadami ang in terms of competition, hindi pa ganun
Right.
kadami. Probably and to probably put out more content than I am putting out now.
Mhm.
To have been more active
Right.
and more
Because
prolific.
right, because 5 years ago it would have really gotten you ahead.
Yeah.
No, I think one of the questions that came up was something you already addressed, where they were saying, did you have to make adjustments to relate your content to your audience, and then how do you stay true to branding? And I think the exercise that you found was, you sort of discovered na, oh, look, ang audience ko pala, mga balikbayan, ang audience
Yeah.
ko pala are overseas
Yeah.
Filipinos,
And the
right?
titos and titas here in the Philippines. So
Right, right. And so I guess to a degree, your branding sort of adjusts to your audience din eh, di ba? Na hindi, no, ito lang ang audience na gusto mo sa amin. Tabi kayo dyan, urban titos.
yeah. But may
Okay.
mga I have certain audience. Eventually, nakakaroon na rin ako ng mga mas batang audience who know
Mhm.
me already by, what I do now. Kasi my the titos and the titas know me by way of Regal Films, Viva Films, and so,
Right.
oo.
I think the millennials will probably mostly remember you for participating in Survivor
Yes,
more
yes,
than anything
yes.
else, right?
Which really
Like,
actually, it really gives me joy when yun ang recall nila. Kasi mas current eh. So
mm,
parang, okay, saw me there. Sige, thank you. At least medyo bago yung reference mo. Yun yung eh.
uh, last question that we'll take, no, and then we'll wrap up. Uh, the question is, so it's about the lockout. Uh, so they say, how do you feel about other influencers that are on lockout with a brand but are seen endorsing similar products? Does it damage their reputation as influencers?
Well, una, kung may lockout ka,
Mhm.
bakit ka nag-i-endorse ng ibang produkto?
Right, right,
Parang that doesn't make sense. Parang if you're doing that, una, breach of contract ka.
right.
And ano na lang yan eh. If you really care a lot about your integrity, even if, palagay mo na, even if wala kang lockout, okay?
Yeah.
Delikadesa na lang, di ba?
Right.
Why will you endorse a certain product when another product has actually approached you
Right.
first? And then, unless it's just really pera-pera lang. And people know when it's pera-pera lang.
Right, right. So I'll give an example, Chuck. Let's say your favorite running shoes are Nikes. Tapos, nilapitan ka ni Adidas. Tapos sabi nila, blackout ka. You cannot run with Nikes regardless of how much you want to. You cannot
Well, the
run with your
question,
Nikes for 6 months.
well,
Like, papayag ka ba doon?
in reality, okay, kunya, let's say I like these pair of shoes. Ito talagang gamit ko. Una, hindi naman ako tinanong. Nike is not asking me to promote anything, di ba?
Right, right. They're not.
I just really like the product.
Right.
If say Adidas approaches me and says we'd like you to promote X na this model which is
Right.
okay lang naman, but I have to try it out first. I mean, I'd love to try it out. I'll use it. If it's okay, and ika nga sabi ko, if there's anything bad, I will not talk about it naman, di ba? I mean, I will not.
Right.
But I don't mind using it. I will not say it. I will not say out loud or on social media na, wow, this is the best. Hindi ganon. I will not say that. Kasi ang weird di ba? I mean, but I will say if I like it, it's good for running. I will say that, di ba? I use it during my runs, which is true, di ba? Because gagamitin ko naman din talaga siya. But I will not say, wow, by far this is the best I've ever tried. I will not say that because
So still honesty, right? Still
honesty pa
honesty,
rin.
still integrity in the content that you
Oo.
post.
Of course, I will
Yes.
see positive things about it. Things, real, true, truthful, positive things about a product, but not exaggerate about it to the point that people know I'm BSing them. Di ba? Yun lang yun eh.
There's still a bunch of questions, but we're out of time. I think you've been really generous for going overtime with us.
Okay lang.
Yeah, if you guys have more questions, feel free to email them to us. We'll send them over to Chuckie and we'll get you guys an answer. Or follow him on Facebook.
Please do.
I strongly encourage you guys check out his YouTube channel. He's pretty prolific. The content is entertaining. Please follow him on Facebook if you want. If you have questions that you did not get to ask, he responds to interactions on Facebook. Send it there, so that you don't have to middleman through Truelogic and then go to Chuckie. But that's about all the time we've got. I really want to thank everybody that joined us for making this a very interesting conversation. Chuckie, thank you for taking the time to
Thank
join
you for
us.
having me also.
Yeah, it was eye-opening for me to go behind the scenes, like what happens behind influencer marketing. And for everybody, we will see you on the next Truelogic DX. Thank you, everybody.
Maraming salamat, guys.